Good evening and welcome to Between the Lanes, episode number 102. I'm Ron.
I'm Shane.
And we're here to talk slot cars. Walker's not here. I guess he's out celebrating his big win, but we will press on without Walker. Again, welcome to Between the Lanes, episode number 102. Find us on YouTube, Slot Racers, the channel. 102 episodes are posted, along with some how-to articles and other special episodes. Find us on Facebook. Between the Lanes is the page. And race results. I got some race results actually from 2 weeks ago. The winning reports. This is from 2 weeks ago. The Florida Slot Car Series was at the Raceway.biz in Melbourne, Florida. In the stock car class, Marcus Ramos was your winner. Doc Doherty second. Terry Tawney in third. In the LMP class, Doc was the winner. Tim Riskin was second. And Terry Tawney in third. And then DTM, we had Dennis DeMol winning with Marcus Ramus second and Dale King in third. The Gator Retro Racing region raced last weekend in Florida at Fast Eddie's in Pinellas Park, Florida. In the stock car class, Jeff Bonanno was the winner, Jay Gard second, Grant Gorner was third. Can-Am, Brian Ambrose was the winner, Terry Tawney second, Jeff Bonanno third. And Brian Ambrose pulled off the double by winning the GT Coupe class with Doc in second and Terry in third. The UKRRA was at Raceway 81 in Newcastle, UK. In the saloon class, sometimes Between the Lanes visitor, George Kimber was your winner. The young Murray Wallace was second, and Steve Taylor was third. In the F1 class, Steve Kimson was the winner, with Murray Wallace second one more time on the day, and George Kimber in third. And in Can-Am, Murray Wallace was the winner, this time beating out George. I don't know if that was some revenge from the other race, the saloon race. So anyway, it was Murray winning, George second, and Steve Taylor in third. And then in the Tottenham class, Mike Thompson was the winner. Steve Kempson was second. And Rockstar Tony James was third. I think George Kimber might have been leading this, and then he had a guide flag breakage. Turn and Burn, Slot Car Raceway, Mocksville, North Carolina was the scene of the big money race last weekend, and both Shane and I was there, and we witnessed our other sometimes host, Walker McNulty, kind of sweep the weekend. The weekend started off with Womps. There was 21 entries for the AWRA Legends Rules class. And the winner was Walker McNulty with Nick Brantley second and myself in third. And then in the Flexi class, we had 22 entries. And Walker wound up winning that one as well. Swept both classes, got the $1,000 cash booty in his pocket. Bobby B was second, and then Nick B was third. And while we were there, we took a picture. And so for our viewers, in this picture, how many people we got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 9. Well, actually, there's 8 USRA champions and 1 world champion who never won a USRA National Championship. Came close a second time, came close a few times, but never pulled it off. But also in the picture is some, guys that are both worlds and national champions. So Mike Baumker in the maroon shirt, he was the Group 27 world champion back, I think, in 1980 out at Crash and Burn Raceway. It's hard to not confuse Turn and Burn. And that was held in at Monty Oren's place. And then the other guys all have won USRA national titles, and at least 3 of us have won world titles. And I think only 2 of us have won both wing and scale titles. So it was just got all these guys here that, almost kind of close to half the field was, some type of national world champion.
Yep.
That was kind of neat. So we took a picture to capture that moment. And I thought we'd share that with you. So winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Sunday, Sunday, Sunday.
And I forget what Walker said he was going to. I think he was going to say like money, money, money.
Yeah, they should.
All right, so this weekend we got the East Coast Flexi Series in action. We got the Nats leftover race, Slot Car Track Concord. Dallas Slot Cars has Texas Retro, Rocky Mountain Retro Racing Associations in action. The Summer Western Classic Retro Race is taking place at Buena Park Raceway. And that's all I have for this weekend. And the first weekend of August, we got the Battle of the Colonies Retro Race, AWRA. The weekend of the 9th, Mid-American Hardbody Enduro at Naperville. East Coast Flexi Series is back in action. And the Florida Slot Cars Series is at P1. And the Penn Jersey Series will have their opening race of the season. And got nothing on the schedule for the 17th. On the 24th, F2000 is Alpha, East Coast Flexi Series. There's the Brisket Internets on the Israel Worlds track. And Gator Retro Racing Regions in action. And that's what's going on for the next few weeks. New stuff. So today, well, before I even go into today, two things. I don't know if one of these qualifies as new stuff, but we could call it news stuff. So P.A. Watson, the host of this year's Wing Car Nats in September. I don't have a date for you. Is the USRA Wing Car. He's the host for the 2019 USRA Wing Car Nats in the Houston, Texas area. As many people know, PA had a location, then didn't have a location, thought he had a location. Well, anyway, he now has a location, permanent location where the Nats will be hosted. Lease has been signed. He'll be there. The track will be there. We're good to go for the 2019 USRA Wing Car Nats at PA Watson's. And in the last couple of days, things have heated up for the 2019 Flexi Flats, which will be held, I think, first weekend of November.
Yeah.
At Mid-America Naperville. And the sign-ups, registration entry should be forthcoming in the next few days. So keep your eyes open for that. Seems to be a lot of interest. It'll be interesting to see how many we get. I'm thinking we'll probably get 20 to 30 for sure, and maybe somewhere closer to 40 before it's over with. But we shall see. So for new stuff, today Ralph Thorne Racing announced their new Racer's Choice premium water-based airbrush paint, available in 15 different colors, available to tracks and distributors. So that's new and out there.
Yeah. Looks kind of similar to the Createx stuff.
Yep. Createx, Parma, all the same stuff. Yep.
Yeah. Water-based.
Water-based. Easy cleanup. So for tonight, in the Wayback Time Machine, this is kind of another one of those interesting.
Who's the names of those? Is it Peabody and who?
Sherman.
Sherman. I always want to say Ren and Stimpy for some reason.
This
You
was
need to find a little Ren and.
This was my generation's Ren.
No, you need to find a Ren and Stimpy for me.
Okay.
That's funny.
Oh boy. Well,
For
I guess,
whatever reason, every time it pops up, I always think, is it Ren and Stimpy? And it's like,
well, if we're gonna go back into the '90s, maybe I'll get a Ren and Stimpy.
all right.
Was there, yeah, they were more '90s, weren't they? Yeah.
I guess. I mean,
Yeah. Okay. So
you can get like Scooby Doo and Shaggy or something.
you're going back to the '60s and '70s there even. So so tonight's Wayback Time Machine visit involves both real racing and the connection to slot car racing. And Again, some connections to lawyers, guns, money,
Sex and rock and
murder,
roll.
rock and
Oh,
roll. I don't think there's really any sex in this one, but I'm sure there
no,
was behind the
I
scenes.
couldn't remember.
Yeah, so we shall get started. So this was about a legendary American car that vanished for 30 years. This was a real race car that was raced, traded hands a few times, and then was completely gone, hidden for 30 years. But before we get into that, if Walker was going to show, I was going to kind of burn him with this uh, picture because it was his birthday 2 weeks ago, and it was Shane's birthday last weekend when we was
It
at
was
the.
my birthday. Yep.
Yep. So happy belated birthday, even though I told you that.
There's a picture out there somewhere of me with a cake. Because George,
Yeah,
I think
from a couple years ago or something.
last year, because it was at Randy's, and
Yeah,
they
right.
got me a
I think we used that.
fireball.
I think we showed that on last year's show.
Was it?
A little
Yeah,
bit, so.
yeah.
But there's the young Walker before he was $1,000 richer.
And cute and cutty leer.
His shorter hair.
Hair might be the same if you go by scale, considering his.
This
You
is
know.
so this is 1/32 scale Walker.
Yeah, that's 1/32 scale. Yeah.
We
I
love
was
you,
just like,
Walker.
I asked him at the track. I was like, well, now you got money to get your hair cut. He's like, I can't. I guess because like up, I don't know if you can see or not, but like up here, Gugu cut it too short. So he was like, if I cut it, like, I don't know. And I was just like, shave it.
Yeah, shave it.
You know?
Okay, so the Shelby Daytona Cobra Coupe. This extraordinary story includes beating Ferrari, bursting in flames, and spending 3 decades in a storage unit. So the story goes back to like Carroll Shelby, who in 1959 was the world sports car champion driving an Austin Martin. And back then he was competing and beating the Ferraris in order to do that because Ferraris like dominated sports car racing for years. But you had Jaguar and Maserati and Austin Martin and other European car makers competing in this deal. So he wins. He's the champion in Austin Martin in 1959. He comes back. He retires from driving in 61 or 62, maybe 63. Decides, I want to build a car in America and go beat the Ferraris on their home turf with an all-American built car. So they start building the Daytona Cobra, or the Shelby Cobra, which actually they called it the Daytona Cobra after they took it to Daytona. And the first race out at Daytona with the new car, they sat on the pole and kind of dominated the race. There was 6 of these cars built. And the particular car that we're talking about, and the one that was missing for 30 years, was the original prototype that you see here in the pictures. Like I said, they built 6, but the prototype was completely built here in Venice, California. It was built in 90 days. The other 5 cars were built in Italy at a different company in Italy, right under Ferrari's nose. They had no idea that the cars were being built there. They were powered by Ford 427 cubic inch engines. And so Shelby hired Pete Brock to shape the car for maximum speed, something it would need on the super long Mulsanne straight at Le Mans. And one of the things I read was back then, all those cars were pretty much open cockpit or like convertible type cars. So Shelby felt that if we had a cockpit on the car, we could gain speed down the Mulsanne straight and pick up more speed down that straight than they would gain what they were losing in the turns because of the big heavy motor in the front of the car. So Peter Brock designed this, and they went to Daytona, sat on the pole, kind of dominated the race. and then they had a small fire in the pits. So they didn't lose this car. Like I said, this was a prototype. Caught on fire, extinguished the fire, car was saved to race another day. So with the 5 cars, and I'll flip back to this. We'll just leave it here for a second. So with a total of 6 cars in 1964 and 1965, 64 they won the 12-hour race at Sebring, and they did pretty well in some of the other races. But then in 65, which was like the big year for them with this car or these cars, they won the world championship, and it was the first American racing team to do so by going over there. They won 9 of 12 events. They won their class at the 24 Hours of Daytona. They won the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. They won the 1,000-kilometer race at Nuremberg. And I think they won at Sebring and Daytona also that year. So they had a really successful year. And at that time, everybody that drove it said that this was the fastest GT car that was ever produced up to that time. Faster than the Ferraris, faster than anything else. So the drivers of the prototype car over the 2 years, you had guys like Bob Holbert. Let's see here. I can't see. Dave McDonald, Joe Schlescher, Phil Hill, Chris Saman, Andre Simon, Tom Payne, Bob Johnson, Maurice Dupron. And then the other Daytonas that did quite well, they were driven by guys like Dan Gurney and Bob Bondurant and a host of other drivers. So they had great drivers, legendary drivers. They had a few world champions in there. And, of course, like Dan Gurney, a few years later, went on to win at Le Mans. So, obviously, he got good experience at Le Mans in these cars, which then carried over. So at the end of 65, the last time they ran the car was at the Bonneville Salt Flats. And over 4 days, they set 23 national and international speed records, reaching a top speed of 187 mile an hour on the Salt Flats. I thought it was kind of a cool picture because it's got the salt hanging off the back of the car, packed up in the wheels and stuff. And so when this project was over, then Ford asked Carroll Shelby to get involved with the GT40 program, which then won at Le Mans 66, 67, 68, I believe. So Ford went kind of, they started like in the GT class. I don't know if that was their thing. I think this is more of a Carroll Shelby deal. I want to go win over there with an American-made car in this particular class and use Ford motors. But then Ford then decided they wanted to beat Ferrari in the big class, the prototype class. So they enlisted Carroll Shelby. And there's a movie coming out about this in the next year or so.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I've seen previews to the movie.
They enlisted Holman and Coleman. And there was another third group. There was like 3 groups working on the same project and kind of competing against each other and stuff. So very interesting history and story behind the GT40s. So you say, okay, what's the connection to slot cars? So Ruskit, which was owned by Jim Russell, and Ruskit was a big slot car company, and Ruskit was known for not only sponsoring other racing cars, I think they sponsored some Can-Am cars, and I think they sponsored some international sports cars. And then Jim Russell had this album produced. It was called the Auto Racing Season, 1965 Auto Racing Season, and it was sounds of race cars at different tracks. And as you can see, it's Laguna Seca, and it's got the Ruskit logo on it. And I've never seen one of these. I mean, I've got the Sound of the Sluts album here somewhere. I even got it on CD. But back in the '60s, there was, I don't know, probably at least 3 or 4 different LP albums made about slot cars. This was a little different because this was real race cars, but made by a slot car company. So you get the drift. So, Ruskit was known for, things like the Adjusto jig, which, is a jig to build a chassis on. And these things were made out of aluminum, and I think they sold for $9.95, and they were a huge seller. You talk to any of the current retro builders, chassis builders that built chassis back in the day, and they probably all tell you they had one of those, and some of them probably still have their original one, and hey, some might even still build on them for all I know. But Ruskit also had motors. They had Mabuchi motors for a while. They were an importer of Mabuchi motors, and then they eventually went and got their own motors made in a different factory and got away from Mabuchi. Rumor has it there was a falling out, but hey, Mabuchi had motors from different sources. They're probably best known for the Black Widow slot car, which was a Can-Am and Formula One type car that had 2 16D motors in it. It was like a 4-wheel drive car. I won't say it was a flop, but it wasn't like, a huge success either. So, but it was unique. It had 2 motors, and a lot of people, if you mention Ruskit, they will say, "Oh, Black Widow," because that's kind of like a car that people remember them for. And they made all kinds of ready-to-run cars over the years, and one of the biggest contributions they made to racing was the pistol grip controller, which we all still use today. People don't know this. Parma eventually acquired the Ruskit tooling, the handle tooling, the metal trigger tooling, and the metal frame tooling to produce the controllers after Ruskit wound up in bankruptcy and receivership. And the Parma controllers that, well, if they're available, if you can buy a Parma controller or you buy a Parma controller, it's the handle is the same tooling that was used back in the '60s. So that still continues to this day. The turbo controller was not designed by Ruskit. It was designed years later by Felipe de L'Espinay, and totally different frame, totally different tooling for both the frame and the trigger for the turbo controller. So, but the handles remain Ruskit. So, and at some point, Parma put their name on the handle by having the tooling changed to remove the Ruskit little logo, and then Parma kind of as a arc. So thanks, Ruskit, for designing the pistol grip controller. They still be doing thumbs, I guess. So Carroll Shelby decides to sell this Daytona coupe, puts an ad in the paper. He wants $4,500. Oh, you know what? I back up. I got to back up. So Jim Russell buys the original prototype Shelby Daytona from Carroll Shelby for $4,500. Jim is going to use it. Jim intended to use the car as a promotional tool for his company, which he did. He also made some minor modifications to allow him to use the car on the street, and even drove it to work. So the modifications he made was mufflers, and they put some carpet in the interior. The car attracted a ton of attention from neighbors and pedestrians, largely drawn by the sound of this race spec V8. Jim Russell recalls Shelby's guys knew some shop in Tijuana that could put an interior in it, so we sent it there, and I had to weld 8 Smithy mufflers on it to quiet it down a bit. So in 1967, Jim decides he's going to sell the car. So here's the ad that he placed, or a copy of the ad he placed. And he wants $12,500 for. Okay, so in 1967, when he lists the car, he winds up selling it to music producer Phil Spector, and Mr. Spector reportedly paid $12,500 for the car because that was the asking price. So Jim thought he did pretty good on the deal, and which on a percentage basis, I guess he did, because if you buy it for $4,500 and drive it for a year and a half, and then throw some mufflers and a little interior work in it, and you get $12,500 for it. I mean, that's $8,000 profit. Not too bad, not too shabby. But my question is, how much did Carroll Shelby have in the car, and then turn around and sold it for $4,500? I mean, like, how much money did he lose?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, I mean, but they're one-off race cars. I mean, I remember you could buy like a used NASCAR Cup car. I mean,
Right.
you could buy them things for like $5,000 minus engine, transmission, dry sump system. And then you'd buy it and you'd run it in ARCA or something. But it's like the current cars. When you're done with them, what do you do with them other than cut them up, strip the parts off of them? Because
I think a lot of them go to the scrap.
right, yeah,
They put them in the car crusher.
Yeah,
crush them.
Yeah, so
David Jr.'s car farm.
It was no different back then, I guess. So this car is sold to Phil Spector. Phil Spector is on the left. Phil Spector was a very unique individual. He was a musician, and then
looks like Gilligan.
Yeah, well, then he became a music producer, and he had like 18 number one hits, in probably about a 5 to 6 year span. There he is with the Ronettes, and he was married to Ronnie Spector. Along with the Ronettes, they had a bunch of, and I won't say number one hits, but they had a bunch of hit songs. I mean, big pop, radio, rock and roll back in the day. He worked with Rolling Stones. He worked with the Righteous Brothers. You've Lost That Loving Feeling. That was one of his produced deals. He also was known for creating the Wall of Sound, which was just kind of like a bunch of noise in the background, but it made things sound bigger, fuller. So anytime we were talking about Phil Spector, people go, "Oh, the Wall of Sound," because that's like he created this thing, and then other people would use it and change it, but he's known as for the Wall of Sound, amongst other things, as we'll get into further. So he also produced the Let It Be album by the Beatles, and a couple big hit songs off of that, of course. And then he also worked with both John Lennon and George Harrison after they left the Beatles on their first solo albums. So Phil Spector has this car. The only thing he really does to it is he writes on the door with some house paint, like the speed records, and I guess some of this stuff wasn't even accurate. It was just like world's fastest car, and he with yellow paint, and we'll see it later in a picture. He wrote that on the door of the car, and he drove this car like as an everyday driver. And he got so many tickets in it that his lawyer says, you need to sell this car because it's going to get you in bigger trouble, and you can't afford all these tickets, which he probably could, but the lawyer's probably getting tired of going to court with him to get our tickets. So that's Mr. Spector holding the gun at us, pointing the gun at us. So the man behind him is George Bland. Phil sells the car to George Bland for $1,000 in like 1970, 71. George Bland gives the car to his daughter, and his daughter and wife licensed it or plated it. Didn't drive it too much when they realized it takes a lot of money to keep an actual real race car running in top form. So she put it into a storage facility in 1971, or storage garage or building or whatever you want to call it. You
Right.
store it, you keep the key. So she put it in there in 1971, made her payments every month to store it. Eventually got divorced, but she had this car in storage. This highly sought after car. People are, a lot of people thought this car had been destroyed. They didn't know. No one knew what happened to it because about the time Phil Spector sold it to George Bland, Phil Spector kind of became a recluse in a way. Like he quit producing. He just kind of stayed at his mansion, castle, house. He didn't go out in public much. So you couldn't track him down and say, hey, what happened to the car? Because you couldn't get a hold of Phil Spector. And no one knew that he had sold it to this George guy. No one knew George then gave it to his daughter, and no one knew. So over time, it got rumored that this lady in California has this car in a storage facility, and people would track her down, come to her house. She would shoo them away. No, I don't have the car. Or, get off my property. And Carol Shelby eventually goes to the house because he wants to see the car, and she runs him off the front porch. So no one knew for sure if she had it or not. So in 2001, someone figures out she has this car, and they go and offer her $2 million for it, and she doesn't go away. So they come back and offer her $3 million, and she decides to sell it. The party that bought it for $3 billion, then got an offer shortly after, because once they bought the car, I will say when I say they bought the car, it was an intent to purchase. Money just hadn't exchanged hands yet. Okay, so in the meantime, this party announces the world, like, we have this missing car, the CSX 2287, and another person comes forward and says, all right, I'll give you $3.7 million for it right now. And they're turned down, and then a car collector by the name of Frederick Simone finally managed to convince Donna O'Hara, which was George's daughter, to sell him the car for $4 million. So she agrees to sell him the car for $4 million. Well, before they can complete the deal, she decides to douse herself in gasoline and set herself on fire, thus killing her. So everything is now in limbo because the owner of the car is now dead, but her mother inherits everything she has. So now he has to deal with her mother to get the car. Donna was the daughter who killed herself. And then, of course, Mother O'Hara inherits the car. So the collector goes to her and says, I'll give you $4 million for it. So finally the deal is done. Before the deal is done, and this is what the car looked like when it came out of storage, okay? So like you can see the yellow writing here that Phil Spector put on it. And then there's a shot of what the car, they said the car was sitting in the storage thing, had 4 flat tires. So this is pretty much what the car looked like. I mean, obviously this is in the storage facility because it's a pretty nice driveway and background, but pump tires up there, put it on a trailer. I would say this is probably at Mr. Simone's house. Pictures are taken, released. So when this happens, guess who comes out of the woodwork? Phil Spector. I think Phil Spector here went slot car track and hooked his controller up backwards.
Kind of looks like the one picture I had of you from downriver when you forgot to slick your hair back. Remember?
Not like that. So anyway, this was a picture of Phil in 2005, but and I don't know exactly when the deal was settled on the car, but they went to trial. Phil Spector claimed that he never sold or gave the car away to George Bland. He had told George Bland to go put the car in storage, but then Phil Spector never, hey, where's it stored at? Or, so there was a lot of other people that wanted the car that tried to convince the judge to put the car up for public sale.
Right.
But then it was discovered that Donna O'Hara had actually had the title in her. The title of the car was in her name back in 1982. So legally, the car was hers. And the judge decided that the sale to Mr. Simone by Donna's mother was a legitimate sale, and therefore he got to keep the car. So a few years later, I don't know if you remember Phil Spector being accused of killing Lana Clarkston, and the trial. This happened I guess it started in 2005, probably, because this is a picture from that court. But then over the next couple of years, Phil Spector had many different wigs to wear to court. He was actually bald. So
it's better and better.
He's a unique individual, okay? So, but yeah, he went to court in all these different wigs over that period. And then eventually...
One picture right there, he looks like Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah. So eventually he went to prison in 2009 for the murder of Lana Clark, and he's still in prison today. But he still collects his royalty checks from all of his hits. Side note, when at some time, either while he was on trial or whatever, he married his newest girlfriend, who was 23 at the time. He was 60-something. She runs the company or business to this day. So even though he's still in prison, his music is still making him money. So this is the way the car sits today in the, find the name of it. The car is in the Simone Automotive Museum in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia?
Philadelphia. And I didn't look up the museum, but I think it has maybe 50 to 80 cars on display. This is the only car in that display that has not been restored or repainted. Or this car is like all original, the way he got it. He may have removed the interior carpeting and things like that, put it back to, but they did not repaint it. They took off the lettering that Mr. Spector added to the doors. They probably cut the mufflers off that Mr. Ruskit put on. But this car would have, 50 some years of patina on it. You know what I mean? So, but another interesting fact of this car, this was the very first car and one of only 7 so far to be included in the National Historic Vehicle Register, putting it in the same class as American icons like the Statue of Liberty and the Space Shuttle. So I've never looked up the National Historic Vehicle Register to see what other 7 cars are on there or whatever else is on there, but this was the first car to ever go on there because of its historical value, like the first American-built car to go win the world championship, built in America, American ingenuity. So I would think there would be more famous cars for other reasons maybe, but this was the first car and only one of 7 to make that list. So that's all we have on the Shelby Cobra Daytona Coupe, and its connection to slot car racing once again. And I might add that what I found kind of funny in the whole thing was, like back in '65, K&B came out with a 1/25th scale ready to run or kit of the Daytona Coupe, and then Auto Hobbies came out with a 32nd scale version, and I think Monogram. I think later years, Monogram and both Revell done 1/32nd versions of that car. But Ruskit, who paid for the car and had all the rights to the car, never produced
any kind of models or anything,
body or anything based on that. And that, what that could have been too. I mean, those other companies may have had an agreement with Shelby that could not be broken, that would allow another slot car company to make those cars. And then years later, AFX made a anniversary version of the car. So if you want a slot car version of that car, get on eBay. Probably you might find one. It's a K&B kit. So, whoop, what did I do there? Oh, so there's your history on the 1964 Daytona Coupe. That was kind of a neat story.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I had known for years that Jim Russell once owned the car, but today this article came up on our link to.
Do they know where the other cars are at, or are they gone?
Oh, all the cars are still in existence.
Are they?
I think one is in a museum, and I think so. There's five others out there. I think one's in a museum, and the other 4 in private collectors' hands.
Okay.
And the last one. I think the last one that was sold at auction, it was in 2009. It sold for $7.5 million, but it's fully restored.
Gotcha.
So, that's another thing. I mean, I would think the original one in the original condition is probably worth more than a restored version.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, and Mr. Simone, I read where he really struggled on keeping the car original or restoring it, because every car in his collection has been fully restored. But he decided to keep it all original. So hats off to Mr. Simone for doing that. I think that's pretty cool. Because I remember, years ago, when the Nats was in Anderson, South Carolina, 2001 or 2, the scale Nats were.
Right.
I took Paul Goronsky and Tracy Chen. I took them to Charlotte to go to the airport. We stopped at DEI.
Right.
And at that time, I guess that'd been 2002, because Michael won the 2001 Daytona 500, correct? That was the year that we lost Dale?
Yes.
Okay. So back then, when you won the Daytona 500, the winning car went to the Daytona Museum for a year. And it was displayed as it left, just as it came out of winter.
Yep.
And
I think they still do that.
Okay, well, DEI had the car back from the museum, and it was set in the DEI museum. As it was. I mean, all the confetti is still stuck to it. And, you can see the champagne.
Yeah, the Guinness, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's like, total patina right there. So.
I think there was a show about, I want to say it was Denny Hamlin. I think the first car that he ever won with, he asked Joe Gibbs if he could buy that car and put it at his house.
Yeah. And I think he's buying this year's car too.
Really?
Yeah. He's going to have to build a bigger garage, put the second car in. But yeah. But the car he has in his house, I'm not going to say it's been restored, but it looks like it doesn't have the confetti on it and stuff. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's got a really nice shiny polish on it. So
all the secrets are gone.
Yeah, probably. So
what was it? I think It was on the
Well,
Dale Jr. episode where he was trying to buy a car from someone. They finally
yeah,
said you can buy it, but no one is allowed to take pictures of this
right.
for so many years. And then eventually, I think they started allowing people to take pictures of it.
Right. It sounds like, I mean, I think I have every car I ever won like a major slot car race with. You know, like a Nats or a Worlds or maybe an R4 or a Sano or something. And I mean, they're all tucked away in boxes, but at some point I will restore those cars and kind of just put them on a shelf. But
Right.
that's the age. I mean, I've already done that with a few cars, and the age-old question is, do you put a new body on it, or do you put the race body on it? But if I put a new body on it, I keep the race body. Like it's if I want to change it or
Well, see, that's like me the year that I won the scale Nats at Rogers.
right.
Everything's on it, or I think the only thing that came out of that car was the motor.
Okay,
And I think I took the sticker off the hood.
gotcha.
Everything else is exactly how it came off the track.
Right.
And then,
Other people restore winning cars, and some of them I've seen them. They keep it kind of like as it come off the track.
right.
There's other ones who just totally toothbrush clean it. I mean, new body and everything.
I took the motor out because like it's a good motor. Yeah.
Either way's cool.
Yeah. And then I put it on one of the little model things.
Right.
And then like when my nephews come over, they sometimes come in here and it's just like, you don't touch that one. You know, you touch anything else, don't touch that one.
See, I can remember this is kind of I can remember being about, I probably would have been about 5 years old. My grandfather's cousin had a son who was way older than me. Like, all I knew is they had a son named Johnny, okay? I never seen Johnny when he was a kid or a teenager. He'd been a teenager or maybe in his early 20s when I was 5. And I never really met Johnny until I was in my 20s, okay? And he was like in his 40s or 50s or something. He was like way older.
Right.
But I remember going over to my Uncle Bob's house, my other Uncle Bob, and he had a shelf in between these two chairs you would sit in to watch TV. And on the shelf was these cars, and I remember them as being like model cars because they were hard body cars, you know, and they were sitting on the shelf. And I remember going to touch one or something, and my Uncle Bob's like, "No, you can't play with those. You know, those are Johnny's slot cars." And I was totally confused because I thought they were cars you play with. I mean, they look.
Right.
And I'm trying to pick it up, and he's like, "No, leave it alone." And there was like a row of 6 or 8 of them there, and I remember, I kind of remember saying, "Well, slot car," because like I didn't know what that meant.
Yeah. Yeah.
My Uncle Bob picked one up and turned it over, and I can remember like there's a motor and there's a guide flag, and then he put it away, and that was the end of it. Like I knew not to touch them, you know. So,
Right.
but they were Johnny's slot cars, and I don't know. I never know whatever happened to those. But I think my Uncle Bob was really proud of those cars because I think they built them, him and Johnny, and I think Johnny did really well, slot car racing for a short time, and yeah, because like probably at about the time I was 5 and seeing those cars, that was probably about the time there was no more slot car tracks left in Fort Wayne.
Gotcha.
So Johnny wasn't racing, but Uncle Bob had them on display because he was pretty proud of them. But they had no numbers on them; they just looked like model car.
Model car.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I kept the scale car, and other than that, the amateur 12 car, I kept it. Those are the only 2.
Right.
You know, they would always ask, "Well, why did you keep the second place car?" And I was like, "Because I never raced wing cars at that scale."
Right.
And they finished second.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, okay, so in your case, that was the first wing car Nats you ran. You got second. That's kind of a memorable piece.
Yeah. And then I'm thinking, okay, the guy who beat me was defending his championship.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So.
Right. And then I guess the first Nats I went to, I still have my womp from that.
Yeah.
Even though I don't even think I made the top 8. I mean, and then.
Yeah, I mean, other than that.
But I didn't keep my womp because of that. I kept it just because of other.
Yeah, that's.
Probably the second car I bought or something.
I've probably threw away so much stuff that now, knowing what I know, I wish I would have kept.
Right.
But then it's like I'd have a whole nother room full of just stuff,
Yeah, I have a room full of that stuff.
you know,
I call it the vault.
bodies and all that kind of, I don't. I mean, my biggest thing whenever I was like really, really, really into racing, and my OCD was like at an all-time high or whatever, everything had to be clean and pristine, and I would paint bodies, and like if it bled, I throw it away,
Right.
you know. And I
Well,
remember I was always told, why don't you use those for practice bodies? Nah,
so let's talk about the big turn and burn race last weekend.
good times.
It was a good time. It was a great time. Hotter than hell, but it was good. I mean,
Yeah,
outside was hotter than hell.
yeah,
It was comfortable inside. It was a livable, doable thing. Bryant and his crew put on a good job, good show. Um, I thought we might have had a little bit bigger turnout. I think the wants were about what I expected, but I thought we would have had more flexi cars.
well, a lot of guys were on vacation
I
too,
know, I know.
so
Summertime's a hard time to have, but I don't know. I just thought we'd have a few more guys there. But nonetheless, we still had a good time. I thought, I guess the first thing I thought the handout motors were fine. I don't think
it
anyone.
wasn't like someone had one that was just like wow.
Yeah, no one had a rocket. No, there were no duds. I think everybody had a competitive motor, at least one competitive motor. Um, like I always say, my problems weren't because of my motor. Um,
Right.
or the reason. I mean, Womps was not a handout race. Maybe we should talk about Womps first. Womps was the Legends class, ran under AWRA rules. I guess there's really only probably 4 motors to run in that class, which would be the Kelly Mini Brute if you can find one, the H&R Lightning motor, the JK Mini Brute, and maybe there's just 3 motors. I was thinking there was 4, but
I honestly still don't know the rules.
right. I
I
hear you.
don't.
Yeah, because you know what? I don't. I think I had a Lightning motor in my car. I think Terry ran a Lightning motor, and I think in Roger's car might have been a Mini. Yeah, it was one of the Mini Brute motors.
So I ran a mini brute.
And I think Walker ran one with the Kelly
Yeah, no idea.
Silver Bullet, or whatever it's called. Um, I don't know what Nick ran. I mean, it wasn't important. I mean, again, the Womp race, at least, I mean, by qualifying, it was so close. The top, I don't know how many guys. The top 8 was definitely close.
Yeah.
The top 7 was because, well, I think it took a 590 something to get into the A main with 7, and then a 6 flat.
That was.
Yeah, because Terry was 8th, and he was first pick in the B because we ran 777.
Yeah.
He ran a 6 flat. I mean, he was just a couple thousandths out of making the A main, So,
Yeah.
Because then it went from 6 flat to 606 with Charles, and then I don't know where it went after that.
Yeah.
So
I just remember whenever I think you were calling the numbers out. Well, I was qualifying. You were like, "Ooh, 595," and I'm like,
yeah.
"All right."
Yeah.
Okay,
Like on Friday, I mean, I ran at 583, and it was like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
I mean, I got my cars going good, or my car and Terry's car and Roger's car, and like I don't know, I went faster in practice. I went faster Saturday morning practice than I did qualify. Like it's like when I qualified, I choked up a little bit. Like I didn't want to fall off. I didn't want to bend the car. It didn't take much to bend the car.
Right.
So, I just went out there and ran a minute and stayed on it, except for a couple of times I kind of came out in the straightaway, but I didn't hit nothing, and that was the goal. And then, like, I never really found the edge of my car. Like, I never really found how hard I could get it to that ragged edge and stay in, but go faster than what I was going.
Because me and Bobby raced Thursday just to get a feel for it.
Right.
So I was like, all right, I kind of made mental notes of where the track was kind of funky with him or whatnot.
Sure.
And then Friday, I think we took it apart. Kind of, I never unsoldered the motor. How the motor was soldered in, I just left it because I was just like, nah, I'm not getting all into that, you know.
Right.
The only thing I did was whenever I raced it Thursday night and the kind of, hey, let's have fun. I got what I got. I think I had it geared 928. And then for the race, I had it geared 1026.
Okay.
And I went faster. And then guide spacing was the same. I think I even ran the same brake because I was like, these aren't bad. I just cleaned it up,
Right.
you know, straightened it out a little bit because it was kind of funky. And then I was just like, yeah, you know.
Yeah,
And
I mean, if I was,
did I run? No, I didn't even run different. I didn't run different tires. I also think those tires started coming in and it was also lower.
getting lower,
Yeah.
well, you still had to pass tech. I mean,
Yeah.
but the thing, I mean, like, I didn't do a whole lot of. The only really thing I did to the long car was put lead in it. I mean, I had no lead in
Oh,
it.
I had 2 strips down the rails.
Yep.
And then I added another 2 strips
Right.
on it. And then I want to say I changed my chip in the controller because the highest chip I had was a 148. And then Bobby was like, well, George has got a controller with a 180 chip. And I was just like, all right, let me try that. And I tried that. And I was like, oh, this is it's kind of like you said. I never really found the edge. I just got to where I can make laps. And I'm like, well,
Right.
if I want,
Right.
do I want to really be on the edge or do I just want to be consistent and make laps?
Right.
You know?
So,
I mean,
the race started off, and I think that, Walker and Nick and you and I were all on the same lap the first.
I think we were all tied the first 2 or 3 heats.
Yeah, first 2 or 3 heats, and then I think Nick kind of got out a little bit ahead of Walker because of lane advantage.
Right.
At that point, because I know that I don't remember what he had. Maybe it was 4 or 5. Basically, me, Nick, and Walker was all on the same lap. Nick was a lap ahead because he had crossed the counter, and me and Walker hadn't.
Right.
And then it kind of stayed that way for the next heat or two. I know going the last heat, I was 1 lap behind those 2, and they were tied.
And I think I was 4 or 5 laps.
Yeah, and I knew that I wasn't going to catch them in the last heat unless they had serious problems.
The black lane was kind of the equalizer for a lot of the racing.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say because, I got off of black because I ran black first, and I ran my car like 3/4 throttle down the straightaway till I heard it make the click. There was like this click.
Yeah.
And once I heard the click, then I punched it from that point through the bank down to the dead man. And I never seen my car lift or anything like that. And when it was all said and done, I think I probably could have run down the straightaway wide open the whole way.
So I went down, and then right before the bank, I blipped.
But I sure as hell wasn't going to try it.
Yeah,
When you're running, I mean, at that point, I'm running second or third. I'm on
you're in the money.
Yeah, and just a little bit behind Nick. So anyways, I got off of black, and I thought, okay, cool. I ran 19 laps on black. That was a good total for even running 3/4 throttle or whatever. It's like pretty good. And then Walker went to black, and I'm thinking, well, we'll just see.
Yeah.
If it's one up the bank and it's over, and he got off black, and then I guess it was Nick's turn to go to black, and is Nick gonna make it or not? And he made it, and Walker got ahead of Nick, and I think he wound up beating Nick by like 20 feet.
Our section.
Right. It was a hell of a race.
It was in the finger because he was coming. Yeah, the finger. Yeah.
Right. Because I know what was funny was when I was on orange, I came off, I think, in the 90, hit the wall, put the car on. It was obviously bent.
Yeah, because I remember, you were like, it's bent.
Yeah, it's bent. So I ran a few laps, and I came off. So I guess in the dead man, I probably hit the left front. And I came off somewhere else. Maybe it was the finger or the top turn. Hit the wall, put the car on. And it's like oh man, the car's dialed in. It's like back to where it
You
was.
were over there laughing, and I'm
It
like,
was
you're
bizarre.
like, it's fixed.
It was
You know?
bizarre.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I wasn't gonna beat those guys unless I had some trouble, or unless they had trouble in the last
I think
two.
by the fifth heat, I was just like, yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
having fun.
yeah, yeah. We just kind of
Yeah.
pulled away from you at like got to a
Yeah.
certain point of the race and was like, oh, what's going on with Sean or Shane? Like
Yeah. I watched Walker pass me one time. I think he passed me twice in a heat. I was just like, no way in hell.
well, you know what? And those guys, like again, those guys, they didn't beat me with motor. Okay, two things. They both have raced Womps quite a bit in the last
Right.
months, and their cars were good, and they both drove good. I mean, I
Right.
think I drove good. I think my car was good, but I just didn't have the hustle in my
The
car.
same with me. Like I said, I never got to where I was just
Right,
making laps. I was thinking anything can happen. It's a womp.
right. And then you
You know?
wound up finishing fifth overall because
Yeah. Charles turned more laps than
yeah,
me,
Charles Aldridge
but
won B main and ran a couple
yeah,
more laps than you did.
yeah, because I had Thursday night. Thursday night. I ran 146 laps and finished third in Thursday's night race.
Right.
Uh, and then Friday or Saturday money race, I ran 147. But the
Okay.
car was better and faster. So
Yeah, because I think Walker and Nick wound up running 156 to win, and I had 152, and then Carl had 149. I was like in the middle of no man's land. Like I wasn't going to catch them, and I
yeah,
was.
you just had a comfortable position. It was just protect the car and just finish it up.
Yeah. Okay, so then we raced Flexies, and um, I don't think there was really any surprises qualifying except for you. Like, I mean, I thought you would have went way faster than what you did.
It's like,
I had
well,
you put down for top 8. I mean,
yeah, yeah.
and
Well, it's just like I went over to the box and I sat down. And Bobby looked at me and he's like, "Is that like a strategy or a plan?" I'm like, "Car went to shit," and he was like, "Okay." He was like, "What happened?" I'm like, "Dude, I practiced it 4 threes all day long,
yeah,
smooth, beautiful. Go to practice,
or
go
go to
through the
qualify.
donut, or yeah, qualify, come up the donut, it's just like, "Rrr." I'm just like, all right, well, I don't know, run a couple more laps, nothing, and then it's plank, plank. I'm like, what the hell is this thing doing? And then finally, I think I got a 460, and I was like, hopefully that puts me in the B main,
Right,
and stuff. But yeah, and then come race time, it was still kind of doing the thing, but it wasn't tight.
right.
I don't know.
So, so you wound up winning the B main, and so I'm in the A main. I qualified 6th.
I think I was 13th or 14th or something like
I
that.
didn't go as fast qualifying as I had in practice. I mean, it was kind of like a weird deal, but the same thing happened in Womps too. So anyway,
Yeah, because Nick TQ'd with what, a 429?
420, yeah, 429, and Walker was
Was it
430.
430 or 431? And I think Bobby was third with what, a 433, 432?
Sounds about right. And I was, like I said, I was 6th, I think. 6th or 7th. 6th.
Yeah, because Guy had a fast car.
Yeah, because I went 440 or 441.
I think Guy was the only other one in the 4 threes.
Yeah, because Terry was the last man in at 450. And wasn't Gizmo was there,
Yeah,
right?
Gizmo was in there too, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then there was a local kid in there.
I don't know that. I don't remember his name.
Yeah, I can't think of his name. If you're watching, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. Dalton, I think. Wasn't it Dalton or Dalton?
Dalton, I think so, yeah. Yeah.
So, we start the race, and I led the first 2 heats. I went to white. I think I was still leading after white, but Nick, I think, had got a lap closer, and I think so had Walker. Okay, so I was either leading by a lap coming off a white.
Well, Bobby was in there somewhere too, because I
Well,
know
Bobby
Bobby
was
was
getting
in that last
close.
for.
Bobby was getting close.
Yeah.
He was in fourth, but he wasn't quite there yet.
Right.
So then I go to red, and like I go into the dead man, my car just dies, like right in the middle of the apex. It just like dies. And I mean, acts like I've got a dead spot on my controller band. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so if you go in, if I went in, if I had a dead spot, if I went in softer, the car would just die. If I tried to go in a little bit faster,
Harder.
then the
Yeah.
car would just come out. But it was actually, it wasn't the controller. So, you know, I'm fighting through that. And then about the time I get that figured out, how to hit it just right, carry the speed, and now the car wants to shoot straight off in the top turn. I mean, lap after lap, no matter if I go slow, if I go fast, in between. So I just went down like the Titanic that heat. I mean, so at that point, I think Walker took the lead, and Bobby might have been second, because I know that as the race went on, I didn't pick up any spot. I didn't move up any. But well, I'll go back. Okay, so so when I come off red, I thought, well, maybe I need guide spacer. Like maybe that's why the car's dying in the dead man. So I went over and put 10 thousandths in.
Yeah, because remember you were telling people, look out.
Yeah, and kind of the same problem on green I had on red. The car would just die in the. So I'm like, well, spacers didn't affect that, but they went through the top turn really good. I mean, so it's like, So I don't know. The more I ran the car, I'm thinking, well, maybe I just have too soft a tire.
Right.
So,
see, I even thought that too.
So I clipped my tires.
Yeah,
I gave a haircut after green lane. Went to blue, and I was like, frick! I was hooked. I mean, I ran 3 or 4 3 something on blue. I think I won the heat. I mean, the car was like, this is what I needed to do. Like,
2 heats ago.
Yeah. And so I come off of blue, and I'm thinking, I want to trim my tires just a little bit more for purple. So I did, and that was a mistake because.
Yeah, because remember you're like, too much.
Purple was loose. And so then I went to black, and it was totally hooked on black, and it didn't change anything from purple. You know what I mean? Like, but I guess purple lane must have been a little looser than black was, and definitely blue. And I had never ran purple in practice, so I mean, I don't know. I should have, but.
Yeah, because I think that's all I practiced on was purple.
Right. Yeah, and you and Bobby, you guys were getting around purple really good. So I just assumed purple was pretty hooked up.
Yeah.
But I was loose on purple. You go from being totally hooked to, well.
I mean, that's the only thing that I could think going back now was because at first I thought, all right, maybe the car is too low. And then I looked, and it's like, no, it's not dragging bad.
Right. That was
so it's like, all right.
I don't need.
And then I was like, was it the braid juice I'm using? So then I went over there and cleaned the braid with lighter fluid and kind of doctored them up. Nope. And then I was just like, I mean, the only other thing I thought of was maybe there was trash in the motor. And like I talked to
Mr.
Brantley, and he was like, we had one doing that. We sprayed it out. But then I'm sitting there also thinking, now that we're talking, maybe the tires I had on the car for qualifying, because I only practiced in purple.
Yeah, right.
You were saying purple was loose, so maybe,
you were too stuck for blue, yeah. Or orange.
Yeah, and it was just fogging.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Never know.
No, we don't. Live and learn. But Walker, I think he wound up winning by what, 5 laps over Bobby?
I think so. I mean, it was.
And then Bobby got nicked by 1 or 2, I think.
Yeah.
And
I know Bobby said that was one of the best races he's ever raced because I think he said he only came out twice.
Okay, so who was 4th? Because
Rube,
and then Rube, and then Guy, and then me, and then I don't know.
I was 7th.
Terry or Dalton. I don't know who was ahead in the A. And overall, I have no idea
Yeah, I think overall I was seventh, I think.
Yeah, because I think I was sick. Because you said I beat you by a lap or something.
Yeah, because I had 199 and you had 200, and I was messing with you like, oh, you got me by a lap.
I mean, at that point, it didn't even matter.
I went there basically knowing I could possibly win 500 bucks,
Right,
and if I didn't, then it was my birthday week, and I didn't want to get all, I wanted to have fun,
right.
and I mean, that's what I did. I had fun. Bryant had his modified parked out front. I
Yep.
jumped in it, and we kind of played around with it, and then
Well,
afterwards,
and then speaking of fun, I think probably the funnest part of the weekend was going to Bowman Gray Stadium on Saturday night
yeah.
after the slot races were over, and that was cool because we were done racing like we were done with the whole program. I think 4:30 on Saturday.
Oh, it was super early.
Yeah.
I
So,
mean, we started a little after what, 9 o'clock.
yeah, Tech was at 9 or whatever for
And
Womps.
then I think he said we were going to take like an hour lunch break, and I think it went a little longer.
Right.
I mean, for the most part, as far as keeping things moving, I
Yeah.
mean, I think everything ran great.
Right.
You
So
know,
so you and Bobby were definitely going to Bowman Gray. Me, Roger, and Terry was undecided. And then it got to a point where, yeah, we're going to go, but we're going to go back to the hotel and clean
kind of
up
fresh.
and go eat and then drive over to Winston-Salem and go there. And we went up
Yeah,
going we went back to the hotel and just kind of vegged out for 2 hours and
because I think all we did was hang out at the slot car track. Because we
changed.
were all packed up.
Yeah, because I didn't want to go to Bowman Gray at like 5 o'clock and sit there and
Yeah,
bake.
they didn't race until 8.
Right.
You know,
So we went back to the hotel for a couple hours, and then we all put on fresh clothes and went over to Bowman Gray and I think we got there at 8:15 or so because
yeah, because I think he missed the first
the
race
first
and a half or so.
the first late model race was on the track when we got there,
Right.
and I think they had run a lap and had a yellow, and um,
Yeah, because I remember
but I was
Roger texted me and was like, "Hey, turn around," and y'all were like way up there.
well I don't even know how I think okay, so we walked in and I'd seen videos of things from Bowman Gray in the past, but I never realized the track was a bowl track. It was a stadium
Yeah,
that basically dug a hole down in the ground and pushed the dirt out, and then built the seats. And
yep,
it's like the old Roman Colosseum, for in a horseshoe, not all the way around, but just
yeah,
from turn 4 around to turn 3. So there's no seating down in 3 and 4. So
right.
walk in, buy the ticket, walk up. It's like, wow, there's this wall. What's that? What's that? Not
Yeah,
brick, cement wall, I guess.
yeah, yeah,
Walk up
yeah.
to it, you look down, and it's like looking down into the Coliseum. There's the track and the cars, and
Oh yeah,
so it was
yeah.
like, wow, this is pretty awesome. So I don't know. We stood up there for
You were up there for at least
well,
30 minutes or
we
so.
couldn't fit in. Like there was a hole I fit in,
Yeah,
and I told Terry, I said, go there, and I'll just stand behind you. And he went down and found a hole, and Roger went down and found a hole, and I'm
yeah. I
watching.
remember I could see like from here up on you, and I'm like, yeah,
And then at some point, I look around and I don't see I don't know where they've went. They're gone. So I'm like, well, I'm
right.
just staying here. They'll find me. And next thing I knew, Terry was back, and then Roger's like, well, I know where they're at. Let's go sit. They got seats for us. So then we came down and sat with you, which
Yeah.
what 4 rows up from the.
Oh yeah, we were right on it. Yeah, because I told Roger, I was like, if y'all are gonna come here, dude, y'all need to, it's different. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, y'all are there, but where you sit, where we're at, you
yeah,
get the full effect.
yeah. I mean, I've had that full effect before myself. I mean, like
Right.
to me, the thing was the facility, the way it was built, and the uniqueness of all that. Like,
And the people.
and doing a little research, there was a lot of, I mean, that place was originally built to be a football stadium.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was lots of football stadiums built like that back in the 20s and the 30s and in the 40s, and then they got away from it, and now they're all flat with seating,
Right.
steel seating built. So yeah, it was really cool to see that, and it was built in 1937. It
Yeah, I
was
think someone commented on either, because I know Roger had some video and I know Terry posted some video. Where's the catch fence? It's like,
there is no catch fence.
nope.
It's a very dangerous place if you
Oh,
go.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, to be fair, the cars don't really get going that fast because the track's really short. It's all flat. There's no. Okay, here's my take on Bowman Gray. To me, it's really not racing because
Oh, yeah, yeah.
it's a one groove track.
Yeah.
The cars run nose to tail. If you are in the bottom groove and you get rooted up out of the bottom groove up into the second groove, the freight train's going to go by you.
Yep.
So the cars run bumper to bumper. They don't get going that fast. And you're on the edge of your seat because anything can happen at any time because the cars are that close. The track does not allow the cars to get spread out, and because there's no big straightaways, there's no
2
bang.
laps or lapping someone.
Right. Yeah, the really
As a
slow
leader.
guys. Right, the really slow guys. But when you look at the top, 10, 12, 14 guys in a race, they're running nose to tail, bumper to bumper, apart, banging on one another, trying to get them bumped up out of the way to get underneath them. The rules there, you can
Very
bump.
little.
Well, you can bump and grind and get them up out of the way, but if you turn them, you go to the tail. So there was a couple guys that turned people and they went to the tail, but other than that, there was a lot of instances of rooting and banging, getting them knocked up, out of the groove and getting underneath them. And
Well, the one guy, remember, he won. He didn't have the left side of his car, didn't have a spoiler, didn't have his back bumper,
right,
was missing his right front fender. And I was like, that's the winner? He's like, yeah. Okay.
Yep. Well, he was just barely rubbing and ripped it off and banged nothing else up. So so we've seen one modified on top of another. And that was a deal where the lead car, second place car was
fast enough.
Right. Well, he wasn't going fast enough, but he wasn't doing anything wrong.
Right.
But the second place guy's trying to get him up out of the way, and he gets him so jacked out of shape coming off four that the leader just locks his brakes up, and the second place guy hits his brakes, and the third place guy turns second.
Yeah, it's a chain.
Yep, like an accordion. And we had cars on top of cars.
Oh, yeah.
So
and then they had the monster trucks there, and then laughing at Roger when the monster truck's like 10 feet in front of us doing donuts, and he's just like,
well, the monster truck pulls up, he's like pointed at us, and we're like, pulls up and stops, and we're just, okay. I'm thinking he's just going to put it in reverse and back up in the infield. No, he just hooks her left or right and just starts donuts big time. I mean, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So.
The kids there, I mean.
Kids loved it. But yeah, it's
$12.
$12. It was well spent. But yeah, I mean, that place is built for entertainment. You know what I mean? It's not really racing, it's entertainment.
It's like me and Bobby, and we even told you we couldn't race there. I'd get so tired of fixing stuff every week just to go tear it up again.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
one of those things, race once, just say, I did it. And that'd be about it.
And that's a place, too, that you can be riding back there in fifth or sixth hole, minding your own business, and you're
get caught up in it.
Yes. Either they run over you or
you
run over in somebody in front of you and you get in it. So, yeah, there's no not much room for exit to try and get out of something.
Right. We seen. Remember, one old boy did the whole Dukes of Hazzard through the infield.
Through the infield.
Chasing someone after the race was over because we were all like, "What the hell's he doing?" He's
went down, parked his car, got out, put his helmet off, was ready to fight.
Oh yeah.
They kept him from fighting. So
I'm sitting there telling y'all, "Get up! We can't see. Get up!"
There's another thing that Bowman Gray's known for, but yeah, it's it was cool. Those were cool. It was fun.
I remember telling y'all the whole time, y'all gotta go. You're 20 minutes away. You gotta go.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you kept saying bucket list. It wasn't really a bucket list thing for me, but it was a cool experience, and I would definitely go back if I was in the neighborhood. And if I guess if I lived down there, I might be going every other week or every week.
Oh, it's like I said. Or remember we asked Roger. Roger's like, they need one of these in every city. Yeah.
Hey, the place seats 18,000 people, and while not all the seats were full, there was plenty of other. There was 18,000 people there Saturday night.
Oh, we had a good wave going because remember we did the wave.
I didn't do the wave. You guys did the wave. I sat there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Ronald McDonald came out with his suit on. Remember, I was like, he looks like Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, the announcer, the ringmaster of the circus.
Oh yeah, but no, the very first time I went there, it was just like, this is crazy, you know. And if there ain't nothing going on the racetrack, all you got to do is just look around.
Oh, that's like I told Roger and Terry when we left. I said, can you just imagine how much drama is in these stands
We're going to pits
between the fans? Because you know, there's women there to spy on their ex, and there's men there to spy on their ex, and you know who's cheating on who and whose baby mama's with. It's like, and in those people, that's like their guiding light, their soap opera. They are there every week. They live to go there every week. They're not so much there for the racing as for the drama in the stands.
And then the whole rivalry between drivers, you know, who's your favorite driver? Well, the funniest thing was, you know, the first time we ever went, I'm looking around, I'm like, this place is full of prison tattoos and the little e-cig puffers, you know? So it's like, all right. Yeah. And then, you know, we went again, and I'm like, all right, well, here's some new things. You know, we kind of seen, all right, you know, you got the good old backwoods, down-to-earth country people, no teeth. So it's like, all right, this is cool. You know, and then next thing I know, Bobby's like tapping me. I'm like, what? And he's like, we're complete. I'm like, what? He was like, chick was pretty hot. Big old dip in her lip, big skull ringing. I'm just like, Bobby's dying. He's like, well, I'm complete. I'm complete.
One of the amusing things that I seen a lot of was girls in shorts with their cowboy boots.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's common down here.
I know, but it's just like, it's 96 degrees. Where's your flip flops or your sandals?
Oh yeah, not there.
But yeah, women and men in all sizes and shapes,
forms.
Yeah, it's all there. It's all represented well.
Yeah, I just had my mom scare the crap out of me. She stuck her head in the room. I didn't even hear. Yeah, look.
So what will be the magic word? Secret word, magic word, secret
magic word, secret word. Say Shelby.
Shelby. Okay, we can do that. I hadn't even thought about it. So Shelby.
Yeah, because I was saying that was
Carol Shelby. Shelby is the. Did you enjoy that little history thing?
Mm-hmm. And on a side note, if Walker owes anyone money,
he owes me $100. So
it's time to pay up because he owes
me $100. So maybe next week we get him on the show and I can collect. We'll see.
We'll see how next week goes. It may be a Wednesday show. It all depends on work for me.
Yeah.
It's a busy time of the year, and just yesterday I think I got done about 4:30ish, and I was just like, I'm not feeling it. It's hot.
No problem.
All right. Day wasn't as bad.
Okay.
So.
Well, until next week, Between the Lanes episode number 103. Secret magic word is Shelby. We'll see you next week. Have a good weekend. If you're going racing, be safe. Good luck. And we'll see you here next week.